It is so fantastic that with episode 11 of Spice and Wolf, despite the fact that obviously the more cool parts of this episode is the ramp up, it's Holo being cool, it's the drama, it's the fear of death, all that kind of stuff that's building up, the betrayal. The stuff that I love the most in this episode was probably just these subtle moments with characters like Holo and Nora. I think that whole scene with them as they were traveling together was absolutely fantastic, mainly when they first arrive at the other town and they're waiting outside. It's just a cool little moment where it feels like Holo is trying to boost Nora's confidence. This is somebody that you assume by this point, Holo doesn't like Nora. She's a shepherd, she's a woman of the cloth, whatever. And yes, jealousy with Lawrence. But it really felt like a cute little moment between the two of them right there where she's trying to prod Nora into having more confidence, which I think is great because what we've established at this point is that Nora is going to leave her current job. She says, whether it's successful or not, I'm leaving. Like, even if she doesn't get the money from this whole thing, she is still going to leave the church. And I think that's fantastic. And I think in that moment, she needs a little confidence. And I really feel like Holo is kind of doing that. And yes, a cute little conversation about the dog and everything was great. But yeah, obviously, the pinnacle part of this episode is Holo, and she's stepping up and she's staring down all these wolves. And yes, in her human form, all small, staring down this massive, massive wolf that is full of pride and wants to take her down. Yeah, anyways, let's jump into the episode proper, opening up with them meeting, yes, Lebert. Now, I thought in the previous episodes when they said they need to contact Lebert Martin, that he was going to be the guy that was going to be taking them down. Like, yeah, they're going to travel over there, they're going to get the gold, and as they're coming back, the Remedio company wants them dead. Because again, like I've mentioned before, yes, the church people can sell gold, but the church they're going to tax the heck out of it. Like, all the importing taxes are going to be huge. And so the idea is that unless you have connection to the church, you're not going to make money. So smuggling in is, yes, a really bad thing to do, especially since the church has all the power. So they're doing something very, very risky. And so they'd want to get rid of any witnesses. It's not so much of wanting full profit, because they're going to make a lot of money from this. It is partly that, but it's also the idea that they don't want anybody speaking a word of what they did. So yes, if they can get rid of them on the way, that's the great thing. I do like the fact that the people they end up bringing in to get rid of them seem normal. Like, there's always a thing with these kind of situations where they hire a thug guys that have done this all the time, but they don't need to do that. If the Remedio company is trying to cover their tracks, they're going to use people within the company. They're not going to use some mercenaries or some bandits or something like that because, one, they risk not having the money back to them, and two, yes, if they're trying to cover their tracks here, they're not going to make more tracks over here. So they're going to use people within the company. These are normal people. Now, it's hard to call them normal when they're willing to kill people over money and their own safety when they're doing something shady, but it's still kind of cool to have, at least for once in a story like this, where the people that show up to take down, to cover the tracks, to get rid of people, are people that don't really want to kill. Like, they're literally like, should we kill this Lawrence guy? No, I'd like to kill as little as possible. Man, I really hate the idea of killing this poor girl. Like, they're feeling bad about the idea they have to kill Nora. Again, I don't feel sympathy for them because of what they're doing, but it still at least makes them a lot more believable in the idea that this is something they don't normally do, and this is something they don't want to do, but they have to do it for their company, and so they're not feeling too 100% about it. It's a lot cooler than having just your typical thugs that show up and go, I can't wait to kill that Nora girl. Should we do something else with her? All that kind of stuff that usually comes up with this stuff. But anyways, going back to the beginning. Yes, I was surprised that Lebert is the guy that was actually going to be traveling with them, which again, that's something that I've forgotten from the first season anime adaptation. But yeah, they start traveling together. I like how they kind of point out that Nora is trying to do her usual routine. Okay, we're going to stop here. We're going to get rest. The sheep obviously need to get rest. And additionally, you don't want to travel in the forest at night. So she's trying to keep them in track and sort of have to have Holo and Lawrence kind of speak up to say, hey, dude, chill. Because this guy's like, I want to go now. Why are we stopping? Keep going. Which I mean, honestly, I feel bad for Lebert because it's like one of those things of like, of the company, you're the person that gets contacted to have to go through this forest that is full of wolves. It's not something that I would really feel like it'd be the greatest thing to have to do for your company. But yeah, when they get to the forest and they camp there, this is where we have Holo's already picking up on stuff. It is so great that you have this whole thing where the wolves show up. They're not howling or anything like that. And so you have Nora wakes up everybody. She tries to, she uses the horn. Obviously, Holo doesn't like that sound. But additionally, you have like, okay, yeah, they typically don't howl. Like Nora specifically says, whenever I go through here, they do the same thing. They never howl, and they rarely show signs of attacking. So it kind of shows this idea that Nora has obviously been through here several times, but she's noticed a sort of trend with the wolves. And I think this is telling right here, because again, she's saying that she's gone through here before, and they'd never shown signs of attacking, which means implying that they're not after her sheep, which does make sense to this new time coming through here. They're not after Nora, they're not after the sheep, they're after Holo. But I do like the fact that, yes, right here, Holo's already pointing out, yeah, there's other things here, right? Like dead travelers. Like she's already pointing out to Martin that she knows what the hell he's doing. Like she's not dumb. Like she can hear him. He probably mentioned certain things, probably picking up on what this guy's doing, or at least what she would assume this company's going to do. And the idea is that, yes, she's already picking up then that the Remedio company is going to kill them as travelers. And so are you fearful of these ghosts of people you've done this to before? But yeah, that kind of plays into the conversation they have in a minute, where they finally get to Lamtra. You have Martin, he's in there, he's getting the gold. At the same time, you have this cool little conversation. Like I said, I love this conversation because I really do feel like it's Holo trying to help Nora. Because Nora's like, okay, do you know a lot about wolves? Like, how did you know? It seemed like you can tell when the wolves are coming before even me. Like, she picked up on Holo picking up on that. And of course, Lawrence is freaking out, like, oh crap, she's figured out that Holo is a wolf, because they've mentioned that before, and the idea that the dog seems to know. Like, the dog completely is picking up on something. Holo mentioned the idea that, yeah, he keeps looking at me like if I touch the wolves, he's going to tear my throat out. But I'm not taking his threats seriously. I am the wise wolf. I like it's almost like she's puffing out her chest to this dog, like he's not gonna get me all worked up. I'm not gonna fall for that dumb young dog. But no, I love this because yes, it turns into Holo making jokes about men and how we have two very useless men. I have to keep on my toes. I'm traveling around alone with Lawrence all the time, and yeah, that's how wolves are. Every night, this cute little bunny is there in front of this ravenous wolf, and he's probably gonna try to attack, but actually, Lawrence is kind of like a rabbit. He always needs taken care of. But yeah, I love it because Nora's like, no, they're not useless. Talking about Lawrence, obviously. No, come on, speak your mind. Again, I love it. It's like that little push of confidence. She's trying to push Nora to speak her mind. And of course, she whispers in her ear. We could all assume that it was probably Nora saying that she finds Lawrence to be extremely dependable. Because yes, every single time, I mean, their conversations have been great. He's brought this job to her. He wants to help her. He's helping himself, but he is also at the same time helping her with getting money in order to do what she wants to do with her life. But additionally, also speaking up whenever, like when Martin was yelling at her, speaking up in that situation, she obviously finds Lawrence dependable. And so she probably told Holo, no, I find him really dependable. And so Holo laughs and says that, yeah, you have a good eye for men. Like she knows what she's talking about. Putting jokes aside, Holo knows that Lawrence is dependable. He's helped protect her, helped save her, even though he didn't directly in like the previous scenario. But again, it's cute. I like that little kind of push to Nora. Speak your mind, speak up. Now, she didn't speak up. She whispered in Holo's ear, but still, it's kind of the same thing. But yeah, that's why we also bring up the dog. And again, Holo knows the dog is being threatful to Holo, but it kind of played this whole thing where she's saying that the dog is like, cheating on Nora. It's kind of cute. Like she's literally telling Nora. And I think that's kind of what I thought it implied the first time I went through this segment, that the dog was actually into Holo because she's a wolf and dogs are obviously a breed of wolves. So I thought that there was like a thing there where the dog likes Holo, like really likes Holo. But that's kind of what she's saying here, telling Nora that, yeah, this dog is taking a liking to me because you always coddle it and you treat it so nicely that it gets greedy and it wants to cheat on you every now and then. She's like, well, if it ever cheats on me again, I'll make sure to get onto him. But for now, I want to spoil him. And I think, again, that plays into what she's already thinking about. She's already thinking about she's going to have to leave this dog behind. That's the heartbreaking thing to realize. This dog has been her companion this whole time. And if she quits her job, does she get to keep the dog, Innick? She might have to give it up. So right here, she's saying that she wants to sit here and dote on this dog because this is probably their last job. Again, whether we succeed or not, I'm going to quit my job. So yeah, it's kind of heartbreaking there. But yeah, that's when they go to the forest. They start getting surrounded by the wolves. Holo's talking about how good Nora is doing her job because she's basically keeping them moving. The formation of them is so kind of spread out. The wolves can't surround. They're very cunning, and she knows that. She knows that they can't get surrounded. Yes, eventually, they do get surrounded, but it's Holo and Lawrence. Because again, that's their target. That's what Holo quickly figures out, is that we are the target, not the sheep. And again, that technically plays into what Nora was saying earlier. It doesn't seem like these wolves are are hungry or anything. It just seems like they're after a target. And it kind of does play into that previous conversation because it doesn't seem like they were after Nora's sheep even when she came here before. At least, again, that's what it's implying. They might have plenty of food resources there, like deer and whatnot, that they are probably just watching Nora that entire time. That she's too much of a hassle to mess with. Again, this is a different situation here. This is all about territory. Now, again, it could be implying here they want to, the big wolf wants to breed with Holo, but all the conversations seem to be laying around the idea of pride. It's all about pride. This wolf does not like Holo for some reason. Does it want to beat Holo to show that it's tough? Like maybe the other wolves want to go to Holo and he needs to beat Holo in order to prove himself being the alpha? Or is it a case where, again, it wants to breed with Holo? I don't think it's the second. I think it's at first because, again, it's all about pride. She says pride and ignorance. And yes, talking down to him like he's a child. Oh, that's all you really want? Your attitude towards elders is lacking. She's talking down to this wolf. She's not talking as if she's trying to say, you're crude or whatever. Cheap stubbornness, crude pride. But yeah, she death glares the wolves, separates from Lawrence, goes in there. I do like that, obviously, Nora's going to be very conflicted with the idea of leaving them behind, but you do have Martin there to kind of push her forward. Look, don't let their sacrifice be at waste. I kind of felt like Nora would eventually turn around for them because that was her whole purpose of being there. Her purpose for being there was to protect them. Now, yes, she can follow Martin's mentality here that they're here for the job as well, and they need to make sure the job is complete. But it does feel kind of outside of Nora's character here. And I don't remember if I had this issue the first time I watched this. I really do feel like Nora shouldn't have left. Like this, I can see her being so stubborn about her job that she'd want to stay behind. And that Lawrence would have to push them to go forward. But it's fine. But yeah, as Holo is staring down the big, massive wolf, over here we have Lawrence. Because he's too good-natured, he decides to wait for Holo. And, well, it doesn't necessarily mean that he waited. She said that she wanted him at a distance. And so she was going to reunite with him. So he just kind of went a little ways and then stopped. But then, yes, that's when we have the other guys of the Remedio Company show up and attack Lawrence. And then talk about them not wanting to have to kill Nora, but they have to kill Nora too. And again, I like this whole segment because it doesn't feel like a bunch of nasty guys that are like, yeah, I'm going to kill for the 13th time. These, again, are people from this trading company. These aren't random mercenaries that they would have to get rid of anyways. They're trying to cover up what they're doing. So if they hire outside the company, they're going to have to cover up something else. So it makes sense that being people from the company, they're not used to having to kill people. And so they're not willing to do that. And I like that aspect that they have that conflict there. It kind of makes it more believable. They're not just a bunch of crazed killers that are cackling about wanting to kill Nora and do horrible things to her and, where's the other lady? But yes, it seemed like an obvious thing that was going to happen, that they were going to be betrayed. So we'll see how that plays out. It does also, once again, kind of play into their fears of Nora. The idea that she is some kind of pagan that has pagan powers. Like, even if we tie her up and put her inside the force, she'll probably still survive. Again, they have to literally, in their mindset, we have to kill her or she'll get out. So this is kind of a more worse situation for Nora. They don't see Lawrence living. I'm very curious if Martin is clued in on what's going on. Again, it seems like it does because of how Holo was kind of jabbing at him back at the campfire on that first night. On that second night, technically. But he could be possibly not clued in. She could possibly know that something's going on, but maybe Martin doesn't know about it. The other thing that this episode really does hit heavy on is Lawrence obviously seeing that he's very powerless, which I think he probably could have picked up the first time that he was trying to save Holo, and he failed miserably. She still had to help him in the end, which she could have done from the very beginning, just transform and got out of there. But he tried to go save her, failed, and then she had to transform. But obviously this whole thing is like this massive sign to him that despite the fact that he keeps being called this good-natured guy that's always helping people, he doesn't have power. Which I think it's hard for him to be beating himself up for it. I mean, in the case of the wolves, I can see him beat himself up over the idea that he can't stop these random dudes, but still, I think he's a little bit harsh on himself. But it does technically play into the conversation they had previously where Holo's saying that these two guys aren't dependable. And here we are. He's literally tied up. They're going to go kill Nora. He's not dependable. That whole thing. But we'll see how it plays out. But that's my thoughts on episode 11 of Spice and Wolf. Hope you guys enjoy this video as always. If you did, make sure to hit that like button down below, comment, let me know what's about the episode. Additionally, if you're new to the channel, make sure that subscribe button to get my content. I do news, reviews, first impressions, top list if it's anime, it's premature. Additionally, if you like this content and you want to support the channel more, I have Patreon link, tips, links, everything's membership button below. Greatly appreciate what it does. Y'all take care.